have never been more crucial to our culture.
I could do this all day.
Now, more than ever, the world needs documentary now.
I first of all just want to say thank you for making this show. I know it's very niche, but I know those of us who love it so dearly.
Thank you. You're a select few.
Yeah. The small but passionate fan base.
Yes.
Well, I wanted to first ask you guys about My Monkey Grifter, not only because it's the only episode I've seen, but because it made me laugh myself silly. I finally got the screener and watched it this morning, and my wife was asking what I was doing in the other room. I said I was watching a documentary now. Can you tell me how My Monkey Grifter came together? Because it's just perfect. I love it.
The most difficult part of the whole process is always just coming up with what the 5 or 6 documentaries we're going to do are, because they have to both inspire an idea and also not bump up against previous episodes. And so I think Alex and Rhys recognized that this was a unique case where it was a movie that I feel like, because it was on Netflix, so many people saw. It was that rare case of a documentary people were talking about. So when that came up, we realized it would be fun to do one where people would know the source material, since one of the other ones this year is about a BBC documentary that's only available on YouTube.
You mean the hairdresser's one?
Yeah, the hairdresser.
Taking niche to the extreme.
Yeah.
Well, what was it like, visually putting that together? Rhys and Alex, your work on this series is incredible, because it seems like each time out, you're making your own little short film. But throughout the series, I think your guys' filmmaking talents and diversity has been really stretched. So I was wondering if you could talk about not only putting this episode together, but kind of the experience of making documentary now, where you were working with so many different visual formats and aspect ratios and types of film that you're putting together.
I'd say that like this particular episode was one where, we'd always wanted to do an episode that was more of a contemporary, like cinematic recreation type thing that was, in the vein of like, James Marsh's Man on Wire, or like, something like The Imposter, when The Octopus Teacher came out, and it's just got such a like beautifully recreated style, and it's all widescreen, and it's it's shot like it wants to be a movie, even though it's a documentary, and that's become such a popular contemporary documentary style. And so for us to wanting to sort of like try something different, and we knew we wanted to do a story like that, and The Octopus Teacher really kind of stepped forward. As Seth was saying, it was so popular on Netflix, it won the Oscar just a couple of years ago. It felt like, well, come on. I mean, if we're going to do one, we might as well do the one that won the Oscar. And felt like because it was so heralded, it could take it, because there was definitely aspects of it that we felt like this is going to be fun to satire, part of the fun of the show, and I think part of what we all kind of share together, is this history that we had together at Saturday Night Live, where, for Rhys and I, like every week it was a different style of short film or a different style of movie trailer, big commercial, whatever it was, that we became so used to that. You have to do those so fast, you become very quick at like identifying, what am I seeing here? What is this exactly? What's unique visually about this, and how can we recreate that? And so part of the game of the show is just having fun with some, these totally different looks, and this season is really fun in how different every episode is. And we're trying a few different styles that we've just never done before that are really exciting to try.
Yeah, it's a little bit, it's funny. Yes, it's difficult, but I mean, I feel really, it's like a cheese almost. Like we get sort of almost like a tasting menu of filmmaking styles that not many other people get to do. Like we really and that's part of the way that the seasons come together, is a little bit of like, well, we haven't done one like this, and and we try, we always look at the span of the season and also what we've done in terms of just making sure we're not covering, we're retreading the same terrain again, and so yeah, I guess there's like a little bit of a sort of selfish pleasure in trying to find these things that we haven't gotten to do yet.
Well, in Fred, similarly, you've gotten to play so many different kinds of characters throughout the history of this series. And I was just curious, like, as you guys are texting back and forth, talking about like what documentaries you're going to do, has there ever been a role or a character that's come up that you've kind of been hesitant to take on? Or alternatively, has there ever been one where you've like called dibs on like, I want to do that. Like, I really want to do that one.
Well, both. But this season, there's one that we did, that Agnes Varda one, where I knew I couldn't do it because it was in French. And because it's a documentary, we just can't fake it. I can't, do a bad version of French. I don't speak the language well enough. I mean, I speak it really well, but not well enough to, be convincing in that episode. So that was, because I think what's more important to me is that the episode is good. That the episode is, that it works on its own.
But I don't quite remember what role you were going to play, but I know you tested positive for COVID and had to play a different role in Soldier of Fortune. And now watching it, I can't believe that there was going to be you're so good in the part you play that it's hard to believe we didn't start from that place.
That's really nice of you. But yeah, because the guy, so I got caught COVID when I was there, and in England, and he's, like Seth said, I missed out on a role. But the guy that we got is German, so it's just that much, it's just that much better. So, but thanks, Seth.
You're welcome.
I didn't hear the same thing from Alex and Rhys, but Seth is, which is all right. It's just some people are a little more kind in their own way.
I was literally about to say, like, you're not French enough, you're not Welsh enough.
I know.
Well, you mentioned
Damn
Agnes, you mentioned Agnes Varda. I'm just curious, what is IFC's reaction when you tell them you're going to do an episode based on an Agnes Varda documentary? Or at this point, are they just like, of course you are, go with God?
Yeah, well, IFC has been an incredible partner, and it's for real. I can't believe that they let us keep making them. With that said, I think it's very fair that they didn't jump through the roof with excitement when we said we were doing Agnes Varda.
Yeah. It was definitely like a little bit of a slower push on the hill, but they got But I think the one thing is, like, once, I guess I always felt like, look, if we can figure out a confident take on this, that they'll be behind us, and which is like it's a rare position to be in, to kind of ultimately know, like, look, like, this is what we think is important for the show. That they do really, again, they're very permissive ultimately. So yeah.
The good news is, I think we always make them knowing that it will be someone's favorite. And that is so true of the Agnes Varda, right? Like, I think for some people, it might be a little bit denser to get into, and it's in French, but it's going to be for the people. And again, you're leaving a lot of money on the table when you don't go after Varda fans. But they're going to be blown away that this much care and attention was put into a Agnes Varda documentary period.
Well, I think it's a
will
testament to
be some people's favorite episode
For sure.
I think.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's a testament to the show as well, because there are some episodes where I still haven't seen the documentary, but it still works and it's still funny and enjoyable if you haven't seen the documentary. So I think that's a testament to the passion you guys put into it. And I think it can serve as like a bonus feature for fans of the documentary, but also as like a gateway drug to then go and find these filmmakers and stuff.
It's so funny that there's because it seems like every documentary now fan is already too cool for the room, but to be like, I like the Varda one. It's like,
Oh yeah, yeah.
I don't like those documentary now episodes that are for like mainstream.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you mentioned COVID. I'm curious, I'm sure it posed a lot of challenges for filming, but I'm curious how, if at all, it changed the development or writing of this season.
I don't think in the writing of it. I mean, it's just such a last minute,
Yeah, we sort of benefited from the fact that there's a little bit of chaos right up until we shoot, and it's for a very short timeline. It was more just, again, I think like everybody else dealing with it in production, it was just, it was more the unpredictability of once we were in like once Alex and I were there and just trying to schedule the show and casting and, all those moving pieces. And because we are such a, we do it on a smaller budget and very quickly, each episode's about 4 days or so. So, and there's not much room. There's no contingency. It's not like we can't really afford to kind of go down and pause or to wait for someone so that was the bigger stress was just, are we going to make it to the finish line? And yeah, I was constantly sort of juggling the balls as they came at us, but
it's a little like
When
SNL
we were
too.
in Wales,
Oh, go ahead.
when we were in Wales and we're shooting in a Welsh slate mine, and it was during this period where the UK was having this surge in COVID cases, and it was just like whack-a-mole on our set. It was just every morning you'd find out 12 more people tested positive, these extras tested positive, Fred tested positive, we're supposed to be shooting, and it was just, you're constantly just like, get this person and get this person. And but like Rhys was saying, we just can't afford to stop shooting. So it was like, cross your fingers that Rhys or I don't test positive. And if it's pouring down rain, we got to fucking shoot. If it's, we just have to shoot something. So there was a period where it did feel like you're just kind of like dodging,
we really blew it that we didn't hire a documentary film crew to make a documentary about you guys making that episode of documentary. Like, as you say that, I'm like, well, we're shooting in a Welsh village during a pandemic. That was bad. We blew it.
Yeah. Oh no, it was stress. I mean, again, I think Alex and I testing every day was like, that was one of the most, for me, I was just like, oh God, please not today. It was like what you were surrounded by. And I remember I had this one night before we started the Welsh episode, which was like, again, for me, I was like, I can't miss this episode of all episodes. And I spent all Sunday night, like awake, like feeling feverish and not great. And I was like, I have COVID. I'm done. I'm like, and then kind of woke up in the morning just dreading a test and I did 3 different varieties of test, infrared, all these things, and I was positive, and then weirdly kind of just snapped out of it. But it was like that every morning was like, please no.
The other thing is funny, speaking about using the COVID time, like we had, I think in April of 2020, we had a Zoom where we're like, let's use this time to write our scripts. And sure enough, like cut to 2 years later, it's like, we need 5 scripts. Like, it's just, you can't get ahead of it. I mean, weirdly, I think I spent like a year on one we didn't even do, and then like 3 days on one we did.
Well, I'm almost out of time with you guys, but as much as you kind of like underplay this show, the cast is incredible that you guys have put together, not only from the beginning, but this ensemble of players, Kate Blanchett, Nicholas Hoult, Alexander Skarsgård. Could you tell me a little bit about putting that cast together, and like, are you finding that like a lot of people are secret documentary super now super fans out there?
Yeah, I mean, I remember reaching out to Jamie Dimitri, who is so good. And it was I'd only met him on Zoom on my show, and I wrote him and you put so much preface into like, we have a show, it does this, it's hard to find. And then and the best is he wrote back, he's like, oh my God, I love documentary now, I'm in. And so that has been the most lovely thing about this whole process.
Yeah, I remember Jamie on set, he would be saying, because, we're already fans of his, and he's like, no, you got to be kidding me. Like, I would tell my friends that I got a role on documentary now, and they'd be like, you? how did you get on documentary?
It also is a nut. I mean, this season is so nice because it is such a, at its core, it always felt like one of those British shows you were jealous of, like short seasons. You're watching it being like, who greenlit this? How did they have all the taste? And so it felt like to come full circle to actually do a whole season over there.
Well, I cannot stress enough how much I love this show, but also Rhys and Alex. Each episode feels huge. This feels like it has a much larger budget than I'm sure it has. So thank you guys so much for making this show.
Thank you.
Please keep making it forever. I don't know. If
Thanks. We'll try.
Thanks.